There we have Wayne Kosior. Good evening, Wayne. Thanks for joining me once again on ASTV here. Wayne's World, brought to you by Case Financial, Doak Spoke Fuels. Wayne, you had a very busy weekend in Calgary. Give us a little update on what it was like being in Cowtown and watching some good old hockey time.
Yeah, well, first of all, it was great because Alberta opened up on July 1st, so we kind of removed the requirements for wearing face masks and everything. So it was like going into a different world kind of thing with going around town and no face masks in the arena required, although some people were still wearing them and stuff. But going to the restaurants and stuff, no masks required. So that was good. And again, it was just great to see some live hockey and stuff. And I heard lots of comments from the players and the parents. Everybody that was there. It was just great to be back to kind of normal. And, the camp that I was at was the Western Canada Hockey Exposure Camp. It's a camp run by a gentleman by the name of Terry Braun. Does an extremely good job of running this camp. It's the first time I was ever at this particular camp. About 20 teams, I think about 300 players. And I think there were somewhere in the range of 75 scouts there from various leagues, from myself representing the USHL and USPHL, and there was all the junior A leagues, tons of junior B teams. So lots of great representation by scouts and lots of great hockey and lots of great hockey players over the weekend.
How do you, talk about, you have so many participants during a pandemic, right at the end of a pandemic. How impressive was it to see all of these participants just ready to roar back on the ice and put their best skate forward? How great was it to see that?
It was fantastic. And you just tell, the excitement in the kids' faces. And then I did talk to a number of the players, the kids there in between games, and, just excitement that they had was unreal. They were just so happy to be back on the ice, back to normal. You could tell in some cases, some of the players were a little fatigued and stuff. They weren't probably in game shape because they haven't skated on the ice for so long, but there was lots of other kids that looked like they've been playing continuously and working out because they looked like they were in mid-season form.
Absolutely. Some of those kids haven't even played, competitive hockey in over a year. Some of them are training on themselves, player development with, skills coaches and whatnot. As a scout or as an advisor, Wayne, with two different leagues in the States, what were you looking to gain out of this process and see how well this camp was going to run? And how were you able to factor in the, how well these players looked amongst the rest of the competition?
Well, kind of like when I go to an exposure camp like this, it's kind of a process, especially like you say, when I'm representing two different leagues, which there's two completely different needs there. So there was everything from, there was a few 2002s, quite a few 2003s, and I would say the majority of the players were 04s and 05s. And so what I kind of try to do is, from a Des Moines Buccaneers and the USHL perspective, it's more those 05 kids that I'm kind of looking at, or 04s, that maybe the super elite kids, but they're not going to leave school and go to the USPHL down in California and stuff. So kind of tried to separate those two groups. My main focus was definitely looking for the San Diego Sabres and Ontario Junior Reign in the USPHL. So I was focusing in on those 02s and 03s primarily, and then just keeping a little bit of an eye open for those super elite 04s and 05s, which there was a lot of them type thing. And then just try to look for, players. I always look for guys that can skate. That's number one. Then, of course, I want to see the IQ and the vision, how they can move the puck around, how they see people that are open and stuff. So those two qualities are the things I look for right off the bat. And then you just kind of start circling guys that seem to demonstrate that stuff, and people, filter themselves out just by their play, and other people, rise to the top and get circled just based on their play.
Now, in this style of a exposure camp, Wayne, are these players that have already been drafted, have been looked at by other teams, or are these, would you consider, for the lack of a better term, free agents that are still looking for their next home?
Yeah, there was kids there that would have been drafted by various leagues type thing, but the vast majority of these kids, even if they are the property of a team, haven't been signed. So they're either too young or haven't developed enough. So I would say probably, and this is a bit of a guess, but probably 90% of these players are free agents looking for teams for the 21-22 season. So it was great in that way. It was, quite honestly, I think it's been the best prospect camp I've been at, for as far as how it was just run so well. And all the players there were, keen to find teams, because you mentioned earlier that, most of these kids, if they played any games last year, was just a handful of games type thing. So, I mean, they're just completely off the radar. And, I told a number of the O3s that I talked to, I think the 2003 class is really the class that got hurt the most. Because most O2s, if they're elite players, they were already playing Junior A or Western Hockey League or USHL. But the O3s were just kind of coming about when, COVID hit. And a lot of them were just kind of in the middle of midget AAA, hadn't signed on with their junior teams and stuff. And so, then they sat for a year. So, did they grow? Did they develop? A lot of teams are a little bit scared to sign these guys. So they're, a lot of these players invited to multiple camps, but no firm commitments. And so, they're kind of, stuck in the middle of nowhere, I guess, in a lot of cases and stuff. So you can tell it's just there's a lot of stress the players and parents are going through trying to find out a team or finding the right team to play for and stuff. And, like I say, lots of great kids here. A lot of these kids are going to be playing, either Junior B in the Kootenay Interior League there. Some of them are going to be playing Junior A in either the BC or AJ or SJ and MJ. And, I'm hoping to get a few kids down to the USPHL for sure, too.
No, certainly. So that is the timeline to get a lot of these players, these free agent players, into their respective squads for the fall then.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially for us. I mean, we start early September and, going into the U.S. and, of course, Canadian kids are imports. They'd have to acquire the appropriate visa to enter and play hockey in Canada. So, that whole process takes some time. So, any of these kids, I did put out a couple of offers to a few kids at the camp. Hopefully we can get commitments from these players in, the next couple of weeks. And like I say, we brought a new associate head coach on board, Jeremy Blumans from Calgary. So he was there at the camp too, helping out and looking. And our head coach, Dave Ritsky, that we brought on board for the Ontario Reign, he's busily working there. And the general manager, Thomas Capuche, is actively recruiting players. And so we're literally going around the globe and stuff. So we got talks on with a lot of players. And so it's an exciting time. And like I say, we're just, working through these timelines to get the right players in place for main camp, which starts, early September.
Two beautiful places in California to go play hockey. I've been to both. Haven't played for both, but I know them very well, having lived down there. Quite enjoyable to be. Lots of sunshine. Speaking of the off season, I mean, for you as coaches and associate coaches and advisors, you have to plan and prepare to get these Canadians perhaps south of the border. What is it for the same for these players that may be making that move for the first time, considering this is such a shortened off season? When you think about the players that have played and their season was extended into late May, early June, when it was normally done by March or April, a lot of these players aren't really prepared for this style or this kind of off season they've had. Now it's the second time around. What is most important, or does it really matter for young kids to have the right amount of time off before the season starts come September?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of everything, I think. Like you said, some players did play late in the season. Some players really didn't play for the entire season type thing. So they've had a really long off season. And so you've had a little bit of everything. And, I'm a big guy that I think that kids do need time away from the hockey rink. I mean, they don't need a year away like some of these kids had, but typically when a junior team will play till sometime in April type thing and then be off until camp, maybe late August, maybe early September. Certainly kids don't need that whole time. I mean, I suppose they take, season, their body, rehabilitate all that stuff, get your leap. And then maybe doing some dry land training and stuff like that. You can do some cross training in other sports, whether that be baseball or golf or something like that. And then I would just say, a month, 6 weeks before the season, start getting back into the groove of getting on some ice and stuff and having some skates and stuff. But, I really think that today, way too many kids, especially at a young age, are skating way too much, too regularly throughout the year. And I think long-term, we're going to see some negative health effects to that, from a muscular development and, repetitive strain injuries that will happen with these players. And, that's why I'm such a big fan of kind of, taking time away from the rink and just doing other sports and stuff like that, which you're still getting your exercise and stuff and keeping your muscles, limber and loose and stuff and developing other skills. And I always talk about the hand-eye coordination and stuff by, playing golf or tennis or baseball, that helps you to knock those pucks out of the air. And, I was watching the Montreal-Tampa Bay game last night, and continues to amaze me how those players can just knock that puck. It's bouncing, and they always can knock it down with their sticks. And unless you've never played hockey, you don't know how difficult that is to hit a puck down in midair with a hockey stick. That takes some skill and some coordination.
Absolutely, a lot of practice, precision, no doubt. And we're also seeing more of that flexibility, the sports like yoga and just the personal, the stuff you can do in the gym with yourself or with a strength and conditioning coach to make sure you're honed in at the right time. Wayne, what is next for you on your agenda? I mean, you've got the exposure camp. Are we heading back south? What is your plans before we meet with you next week?
Yeah, well, I mean, just over the next week, I'll be doing some follow-ups with a lot of these players that are at the camp. I mean, I did make some offers to a few players there right in Calgary, and so waiting to hear back on some of those. I will be following up with a few more players just to communicate with them as far as their program, because, it is difficult to see all the players there that you want to see. As good as this camp was set up, I mean, they have a great package here that, I got here that's kind of a whole pamphlet with, all that's pretty thick there. It's about an inch thick. It's got all the details on every player, all their stats, and it's just great that they provided their email address and a phone number, which is typically a mobile number. So, I mean, as I was watching the games, I was, maybe text a player that I caught my eye, and then when you get off the ice, then I try to meet him after the game. And so, I mean, you were always between watching games, you were chatting to guys and stuff, but I couldn't see them all. Time just didn't allow. So I do have to do some emails to follow up with some of these kids that I didn't even get a chance to talk to, just to let them know about our programs in California there and check onto their interest type thing. And, because a lot of these kids are looking to get commitments, and, if the players that were interested, I'd love to get commitments from them. And, but in the meantime, I know a lot of them, there was a lot of the KI junior B teams were represented there, as well as a lot of junior A teams. So, and again, there was players that will be for all those levels. There was from players I'm 100% certain will play junior A, and a lot of players 100% will play, some great junior B hockey. And of course, the younger kids. Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to say some of the younger kids, some of the 04s and 05s are going to be, elite 04 and 05s, where they're playing midget. Some of them may, be depth guys in junior A teams, but again, it's just weren't a good fit for myself because they're just so young. But I'll keep an eye on them from a Des Moines Buccaneers perspective. But some great talent there.
Well, it certainly sounded like the participants, the scouts, and everybody that was involved at this camp could foreshadow what's expected this fall when we do get a return to hockey. Wayne, next week we're going to try and clear some more of this air. We're going to go back to the NCAAs after their announcement July 1st, because it's still a big shamble, a big conundrum, and a cluster, whatever you want to call it, when it comes to these players and what's going to happen. So we'll talk to you next week about that and more so. Does that sound all right?
That sounds fantastic. Theo, you have a great week, and I look forward to talking to you next Tuesday.
Wayne's World with Wayne Kosior. Thank you very much on ASTV. We'll be right back with part 2, where we had a chance to catch up with some Ice Dogs and their future endeavors that have been given to them after this past couple of seasons. Thanks for watching on ASTV. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. And, of course, we'll see you in a bit. Welcome to Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy, your world-class academic and hockey training facility created to maximize each student's athletic and academic potential. Blackjack Stewart Arena, home of the Buffalo, is inside the 46,000 square foot complex, as well as a curling rink and other facilities. The students have a unique combination of successful, well-rounded education at Pilot Mountain Collegiate Institute and the professional hockey training in an encouraging community. The years of experience of on-ice coaching propel our students to the next level, both mentally and physically, in a professional environment.